My daughter and I went to an antiques flea market recently. I went to one table where the guy had a bunch of old soda bottles and he was selling them for $1 a piece. So I snagged a few that I didn't have there. You'll see those in upcoming videos. Now that I have upwards of probably 1,000 bottles in my collection, what I look for when I'm looking for new bottles is something unique, something I haven't come across yet. So this one table had some interesting treasures, and while I was looking at another piece, my daughter held up this one, and I immediately said, I'll take it. So let's dig in and see what this story holds on this episode of Antique Bottle Stories. First, let's take a look at this. It says Mouse Exterminator, manufactured and sold by N.J. Wigginton, Winchester, Virginia. Patent July 30th, 1918. So you see it's got this sloped top here, and this is a really crispy bottle. Since the line goes all the way to the top, it looks like it's machine made, but the line isn't perfect throughout the bottle, and it's got bubbles. And it kind of looks like it's blown at the bottom. Maybe the top part is machine made. It was pretty dirty when I brought it home, but it cleaned up really nice. It's got a bump and an indent in the middle there. And on the bottom, there's an old Owens mark. This particular mark dates from 1918 to 1928. Since there's a really faint 2 to the right there, that means it was manufactured in 1922. That's 102 years ago. Wow. I was able to find another example online with the little wire piece that it would have come with. It would have been set up like this. And I learned that there were 3 more versions of this, including a plastic version, but these 2 don't have his name on it. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how this thing worked. Now, does the mouse go in and it kind of tips backwards so he can't get out? Because it kind of looks like a mouse could easily get in and out of there. Maybe there's some trap door or something that would have been inside. Maybe there's just some poison bait in the back and they can get out, but they just don't make it very far. So Mr. N.J. Wigginton is Newton J. Wigginton. He was born in Virginia in 1868. And from what I can tell, he's one of 9 kids. They all grew up on their parents' farm. It turns out Newton is quite the inventor. There's really not a lot of records out there for him, but I found enough that we can kind of tell what kind of guy this guy is. You'll see. The first record I find is in Google Books in 1897. He's 29. There's a patent issued to Newton Wigginton for some type of coffee or teapot. I haven't been able to find a picture of it to see if it resembles what we use today or was it some kind of unique design. 1897 coffee pots are pretty much the same as they are today, just much prettier. In 1900, he's 32 now, single, and he's boarding with a family. It says he's a dry goods clerk. In 1907, this newspaper lists the patents granted this week. Newton Wigginton is given a patent for a muzzle. Again, I can't find a picture of it. 1910, he's listed as 40, but he's really 42. Single. He's boarding with a different family, a young family. The head of the household is 25-year-old Luther Johnson, and he's got a fruit farm. Newton is working on his farm as a fruit grower, jack of all trades. 1912, another patent is issued, a spraying compound mixer. There's a picture of this apparatus along with a description of how it works. 1915, another patent. This time it's for a friction clutch. No picture, no description. Another one in 1917. This one's for a bridge grating. Later this year, there's something in the newspaper written by Newton Wigginton. My attention has been called to the process of bridge grafting demonstration by a Mr. C. Woosley, assistant horticulturist at the Virginia Experiment Station, and I desire to say to the orchardist that the process used by Mr. Woosley is my process and my property under patent rights issued to me June 13th, 1916. I desire to warn the orchardist that this process cannot be used without acquiring the right from me as the owner of the patent and that I intend to prosecute any violation of my rights under this patent. Any orchardist desiring to use my process or the process demonstrated by Mr. Woosley can acquire the right to use it by applying to me. Respectfully, N.J. Wigginton. In 1918, there's a new patent for our animal exterminator. In 1919, there's an article in a magazine called American Fruit Grower regarding his mousetraps. And there's a description that will answer some of my initial questions. This says, "It is quite well known that the most effective protection from this destructive pest is to poison the little varmints with a suitable bait. Mr. Wigginton's method is to mix wheat with a powdered strychnine. This treated grain is then placed in a sort of glass bottle on which he has a patent, and the bottles are placed at suitable intervals throughout the orchard. The bottles are large enough so that the mice may come and go, but are so shaped that the grain does not fall out and waste, and the poison is not washed off by the rain. It also keeps the grain away from birds and other animals." That's pretty smart. It goes on to say that the mice are very fond of the poisoned wheat, and it doesn't matter where you put the containers, the mice will find the wheat and they'll die. Quite a number of orchards have been saved from destruction by mice by the use of this mouse exterminator, and millions of trees can be saved throughout the United States by the use of this glass poison bait container. It goes on to explain the process for making the bait. I was able to find one ad in 1923 magazine for the exterminator. It's really blurry, so I can't really make out what the price is, but it kind of looks like $18 per gross. And I'm assuming gross would be maybe a bulk of that item. 1924, he's still in the fruit business. The Winchester Cold Storage Company last season held in storage a larger quantity of apples than had ever been under one roof in the history of commercial apple growing in the United States. This plant is devoted exclusively to apple storage. No other fruits are being received. H.F. Bird was re-elected president, N.J. Wigginton is vice president, and so on, so on. 1926, he's still in the apple business. And here he's granted a new patent. I think we're up to 7 now, this time for a grater. We have a picture and instructions on how to use it. I read it, but I'm still not understanding how it works, what it does. I'm thinking it has something to do with the apples. 1933 patent, this one's number 8. It seems like an updated version of his last invention. It's called the grating machine. It's got an elevator and a hopper. Can you guys understand what it does? Well, not only do we have a picture and instructions for this one, but we hit the jackpot. Here's a photo of, I can only assume, is Mr. Wigginton with his grating machine. It definitely looks like an apple sorter of some kind. Look, there's little nets down there where they would dump into baskets that would be placed next to it. And you can see there's a little elevator part that's operated with a chain. It's really fascinating. Well, that's all the records that I was able to find for him. He died in 1949, about age 81, and there's not an obituary for him, but there is a little something in the newspaper after he died. It says, Newton J. Wigginton, aged bachelor, fruit grower, and inventor, who died recently, left a personal estate valued at over $304,000, according to a report of appraisers filed today. I wonder where all that money ended up going. There's one more thing that I found. It's a 1974 antiques price list. This mouse exterminator is appraised in there for being worth $9.50. And that was in 1974. And I just paid $10 for it. So I think I did pretty good. And that's all we've got for today on this one. Even though I didn't find that much for this story, I still found it very fun. And I bet he was a pretty cool guy. Anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful day today, and thank you for watching.